What's up guys, my name is Rising, and to everyone's surprise, the patch notes for the next season came much earlier this time. I was actually in the middle of editing my gun guide for the S36 when I saw that the patch notes were already out, and so I had to shift my focus since that will be my first priority. And so, as usual, we'll go through all of the weapon balancing details and see whether the adjustments were actually impactful or not. Starting with the assault rifles, the FR556 saw buffs to its aim down sight as well as its aim walking speed, which are now both above AR standards. However, this doesn't address the gun's main issue, which is its inability to 3-shot up close unless you land upper torso or headshots, which are much less impractical in standard gunfights where your arms will generally block your chest. This is also supported by its high visual recoil paired up with a terrible aim shake, so even after its buff, the FR556 will still remain as a bottom tier option, which doesn't specialize in any singular aspect. Moving on, the Kilo 141's integral suppressor now increases its maximum damage phase by 1, which doesn't decrease our base shots to kill. However, if we factor in the body multipliers, we see that now you'll need just a single headshot or 2 shots to the upper torso or lower arms to achieve a 3-shot kill. This greatly improves the weapon's consistency up close, and it might end up being a mandatory attachment for the Kilo 141 now that it makes the weapon a lot more lethal. I have covered both the FR556 as well as the Kilo in great details, so I'd suggest to go and have a look on those for further breakdown on those two weapons. Moving on to the submachine guns, the QQ9 got a range buff, ever so slightly. Its maximum damage range is increased by 1 meter and its second and third ranges by 2 meters. These are pretty minor buffs if you ask me at least. However, its 10 mil conversion now improves our lower torso multiplier to 1.1 times, which honestly doesn't really matter as you're anyways going to get that 4-shot till the second damage range regardless. The QQ9 with its 10 mil conversion is already very strong option in the current meta for a semi-aggressive playstyle, and it's going to perform even better at mid-ranges with the range buff paired up with its BSA buff that it received a couple seasons back. Moving on to the LMGs, the Holger got a bullet spread buff along with a horizontal recoil reduction, which is excellent for those mid to long range encounters. Both of its magazines also received an upper torso and lower arm multiplier buffs to 1.1 times, which means now you can 3-tap in its maximum damage range very effectively. This might make the Holger a lot more viable with any of those magazines equipped, and combined with its BSA and recoil buff, it could be quite effective against the current meta. Up next, we have the Hades, whose damage profile got reworked by increasing all of its damage phases by 2. This has no impact on its base shots to kill, however, it matters once you factor in its body multipliers, especially with its newly buffed rapid fire barrel, which will come very shortly. Its crossbar attachment no longer increases bullet spread, and now there's no reason to use that attachment since now it's just free ADS and strafe speed that you shouldn't be leaving alone. And now for its rapid-fire barrel, it no longer has separate damage increment as the base damage profile of the Hades has already been improved. However, now it has a 30% range penalty rather than 15%, which means our maximum damage range reduces to 11.2 meters, while our medium damage range reduces to 22.4 meters. To be honest, I don't think that it needed a nerf of any sort, as you're hardly going to find a player who's using the Hades 24/7 in ranked matches. However, it may be justified by the fact that the barrel now also improves our lower arm multipliers to 1.1. This means that now with a new damage profile, you can 3-tap in the maximum damage range with just a single shot to the upper torso or lower arms. You can even 3-tap to its medium damage range if you land all 3 of your 3 shots in those said zones. This buff addresses the main problem with the Hades, which was a very unforgiving 3-shot potential, although now you really need to use the rapid fire barrel in order to achieve a very competitive time to kill. Moving on, for the sniper rifle category, the 3-line rifle surprisingly got a couple buffs. The 500mm custom barrel now improves our rate of fire by 12%, and the Marksman stock now improves our ADS speed by an additional 8%. Till now, I never used any of these attachments as you lose on aim down sight with the barrel and a ton of mobility with the stock. However, the base ADS for the 3-line rifle is already very fast, and the gun actually struggles in its fire rate, so maybe these 2 buffs can address that issue pretty nicely. But regardless of the buffs, the 3-line is arguably the best sniper rifle in the right hands, thanks to its incredibly fast aim down sight. However, majority of the community still prefers the Tundra due to its faster fire rate, and now with a buff to the custom barrel, we might see a lot of players using the 3-line rifle a lot more than before. Next up for the Marksman rifles, the M1 Grand saw a buff to its head multiplier, which addresses the biggest issue with the gun, that is not able to one-tap to the head at any range. And now with the buff, it can one-shot to the head, but only within its maximum damage range. Its 303 British rounds no longer reduces its body multipliers, however the 6.5 Sakura rounds are way better, and there's no reason to use any other ammunition instead. Even though with the head multiplier buffs, the M1 Grand will still perform suboptimally compared to other existing marksman rifles, especially the new SO14. Nonetheless, it still remains as a fun gun to use in this meta if you've got a very good trigger finger. Moving on to shotguns, the VLK Rogue got a couple buffs. First to its XRK Relia Grip, which now reduces our bolt time by 10%, which indirectly improves our fire rate. Its choke now cuts our ADS and hipfire spread in half compared to the pre-patch version, which is excellent. Overall, the VLK Rogue is an extremely good shotgun with the Dragon's Breath rounds if you know how to use it effectively. And finally, the Striker saw a nerf to its leg multipliers going down to 0.9 times. This nerf is barely noticeable and changes absolutely nothing to a fully automatic spammable shotgun. However, its fast reload case... Its fast reload case now has a 20% sprint out time reduction, which might harm the weapon slightly. However, you may counter that with the 5mW laser pretty easily. The Striker is one of the most deadliest weapons, provided you're playing in small maps like Shipment. And to be frank, I don't see people using the Striker less effectively after its nerf, so it'll stay in the place where it belonged. And surprisingly, this time we saw a few pistols getting buffed as well. The 50GS, or the Desert Eagle, got a base rate of fire buff, which is nice. The Renetti saw a lower torso multiplier buff, which absolutely does nothing to the gun. And finally, the Akimbo on the MW11 saw a rework to its damage phase, which absolutely has no effect whatsoever. Its hipfire spread is reduced slightly, which is definitely nice for an Akimbo weapon. And finally, its maximum damage range is improved by 1 meter, which again does basically nothing. You can even see its modified damage phases, which again has no effect whatsoever. Now for the operator skills, the Reactor Core got a reduced energy requirement, the Hive's ammo capacity is increased by 1 to 4, and the Sparrow again saw an ammo capacity reduction by 1 to 5. As for Scorestreaks, the bomb drone's cost is further reduced to 400, the Dragonfire's ammo capacity is increased by 1 to 4, and the Wheelson saw a fire rate increment, reducing its fire interval to 400 milliseconds. As for wildcards, I'm not entirely sure what this means, but I'm assuming that it means that your Scorestreak costs won't be reduced as much as in the current version of it. And finally, for Battle Royale classes, the Refitter's armor packs will now have an increased damage reduction, the Trapmaster's activation radius is reduced by 50%, it says that Misdirection will no longer improve movement speed, however it comes under the Disrupt class, which anyways improves our movement speed after activating the skill. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on in here. The Jet Boost now increases your jet slide distance. Defender no longer flashes the enemy while activating, however it now provides damage resistance while deployed. And finally, we have yet another adjustment to the Igniter, which no longer increases movement speed while activated, but instead the movement speed debuff to enemies have been increased. Also, the damage per tick when upgraded is increased to 25, which means now you're going to require 12 ticks to kill an enemy at 300 HP. I'm not a BR main, but I'm sure that the BR grinders out there might be a little disappointed with this adjustment. And there you have it. That's finally going to wrap it up on today's video, where we just covered everything that you need to know on the upcoming weapon balancing details. As for my thoughts on the patch, I think it's just alright. I didn't see anything that's going to shape up the meta. It's just many of the weaker guns like the Holger, Hades, Kilo 141, and the M1 Garand got most of their primary issues addressed, which may make them a little bit stronger than before. However, these are just details much earlier on the season, which can of course change once the new season is live. In that case, I'll leave the additional changes in the pinned comment of this video. However, those were just my thoughts, and now I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What do you think about the patch? Did any of your favorite weapons get buffed in this patch? And do you think any of these weapons can compete in today's meta quite effectively? just let all of those thoughts in the comments down below. As you've noticed, I haven't provided builds for any of the weapon mentioned in today's video, so if you want builds, then join my Discord server where you can be a part of the community and also have a one-to-one conversation with me. If you're new around here, make sure to subscribe to see future content and leave a like on this video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.